Jim Jones is a name that carries the weight of an unimaginable tragedy. As the leader of the infamous People's Temple, he drew in thousands of followers with promises of equality and salvation. However, instead of guiding these souls toward the light, Jones used spiritual manipulation, twisting the scriptures to justify his own dark desires. He even went as far as to put himself in the place of God, leading over 900 followers to take their own lives in a mass suicide at Jonestown in 1978. This tragic event shows the devastating consequences when the words of a public figure, filled with false spirituality, tragically shape the fate of those who blindly follow. Think about it. How do the words and actions of spiritual leaders impact both their own lives and the public's perception of their beliefs? In Jim Jones's case, his words created a cult of despair, resulting in one of the greatest tragedies in modern history. His story serves as a stark warning of how arrogance and the misuse of faith can lead to destruction. Thomas Andrews, the renowned designer of the Titanic, believed so strongly in the unsinkability of his creation that this belief became a symbol of human pride. Like many others, he underestimated the power of nature and the vulnerability of his own work. Andrews claimed that not even God could sink the Titanic. When the Titanic struck an iceberg and began sinking on the night of April 15, 1912, Andrews stayed on board, trying to help as many people as possible, ultimately perishing with his creation. Andrews' story makes us reflect on how arrogance, often disguised as confidence, can contribute to both personal and collective tragedies. His death is a painful reminder that no matter how much we believe in our ability to control fate, there are limits to human pride. Blind faith in our abilities, without recognizing the need for humility, can lead to tragic downfalls. In 1966, John Lennon made a statement that echoed around the world, claiming that Christianity was in decline and that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus. These words, spoken at the height of his fame, sparked intense global backlash. Boycotts, protests, and criticism rained down on the band, with many viewing his words as a direct affront to the Christian faith. However, it was in 1980 that Lennon faced a more direct and deadly consequence of his words. On the night of December 8th, he was shot and killed by a disturbed fan. This tragic event makes us think about the power of words from public figures and how they can shape not just public perception, but also lead to fatal consequences. Lennon's words, filled with arrogance and disrespect, can be seen as a foreshadowing of the tragic end that awaited him. 5 bullets ended his life, but the lesson left behind is that arrogance can come at a high price, especially when challenging something as powerful as the faith of millions. Marilyn Monroe, the star who shone brightly in Hollywood, also lived a life marked by inner struggle and loneliness. During a meeting with evangelist Billy Graham, Monroe was encouraged to consider the message of Christ. However, she rejected the offer, saying she didn't need Jesus. Just a few days later, on August 5, 1962, Monroe was found dead in her apartment at the age of 36. Monroe's story makes us question the spiritual consequences of rejecting religious teachings. Her premature and tragic death at 36 illustrates the brevity of life and what can happen when we choose to turn away from spiritual paths that could bring comfort and peace. We don't know what might have happened if she had accepted Christ's message, but her story stands as a warning about the dangers of ignoring spirituality in search of answers in the wrong places. Charles Manson, a name synonymous with terror, used religion in a twisted way to justify unimaginable acts of violence. In the 1960s, Manson distorted biblical teachings and proclaimed himself the Messiah, leading his followers to commit brutal murders that shocked the world. He embodied evil by manipulating those around him, convincing them that their acts of violence were somehow justified by his supposed spiritual vision. Manson died in prison in 2017 after decades of incarceration, but his legacy of horror remains. His story is a dark reminder of how the words and actions of leaders who distort faith can lead to destruction, both for themselves and others. Using faith to justify evil is perhaps one of the most profound forms of spiritual corruption, and Manson is a clear example of what happens when someone completely strays from the true message of love and redemption that Christianity preaches. These stories teach us that our words and actions, especially regarding faith, carry immense weight. The spiritual and earthly consequences of mocking Jesus or the church can be devastating, as we've seen in the examples presented. The final lesson is clear. We must treat faith with respect and reverence, recognizing that forces greater than we can comprehend are at play. May these stories serve as a warning and a reflection, reminding us to keep our faith strong and our spiritual path guided by humility and respect for what is sacred. Please kindly show your support by liking this video, subscribing to our channel, and sharing this essential message. Each action you take helps spread the gospel, reaching more hearts and strengthening the kingdom of God here on earth. God bless you and your family.